Me and sister-in-law, Daisy, have been friends since high school, 15 years ago. I started dating her brother, Dan, when we were all in college. Daisy married Matt sometime after I married Dan 10 years ago. Matt and Daisy wanted a baby and starting trying right after marriage, but they were having a lot of trouble. I am talking multiple failed IVFs, multiple late-term miscarriages, one of which was a stillbirth. The struggle went on for 7 years. I have helped her immensely through everything, financially and emotionally. Matt is unsympathetic sometimes. He behaves as if it's a batch of bad cookies and immediately guilts her into trying again. So, it always was up me and Dan to take care of her. Despite many talks from me and Dan, she remained married to him and kept trying again and again. We have had many offers to leave the state or country for a better job, but didn't because we were scared to leave her alone. 3 years ago, I got pregnant. We broke the news gently to Daisy one day. She got real quiet and then asked us to leave. Later, she sent me an email saying she doesn't want to see me or Dan anymore and that this is all too much. We tried to console her but didn't work, so gave her space. 2 weeks before I was supposed to give birth, Dan passed away in an accident. I don't have any family except for Dan and Daisy. Daisy refused to attend the funeral because she will have to see me. The day before the funeral, and I called her and begged her to come. I didn't think that I would be able to go through that without her. She hung up on me and didn't attend the service. Soon after that, I gave birth and I decided to move to another state. I cut off all contact with Daisy and started fresh. Now, me and my daughter are very happy and we are enjoying a comfortable life. She attempted to contact me once I moved away, but I ignored her. 2 weeks ago, she called from an unknown number and said she desperately wanted to talk to me. Turns out she finally got pregnant, had a baby boy who passed away 5 days after being born in NICU. Matt is also leaving her and screwed her over because of the prenup. She is basically broke and homeless days after losing a child. I just said okay. She then asked, "Are you really not going to say anything? You're really not going to help?" I pretty much said, "I don't care about you. I don't care about your life. I don't care about Matt. I don't care that your baby died. Just leave me and my daughter alone." And then hung up. Since then she has been sending me multiple emails and voicemails stating how awful I am and how heartless and how much Dan would be disappointed. I continue to just ignore everything. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You cut contact for a perfectly valid reason. After years and years of being there, when you needed her most, she showed you what kind of friend she really is. It was a one-way street with her. And when it didn't revolve around her and you needed support, she bailed. The only reason she even reached out to you was because she wanted something. There was no apology or recognizing that she was horrible to you. In the end, you recognized it for what it was. An unhealthy, toxic relationship. Keep Daisy out of your life. I'm sorry for your loss and wish you and your daughter nothing but happiness. Daisy sounds like all she does is take. She needs someone emotionally, but she doesn't seem to give back, which I understand is harsh, but she was the one who reached out to you after you cut her off. It was rather harsh what you said, but this is the result of years of Daisy's behavior and her abandoning you when you needed her the most. Dan's funeral. She only called you up again when she needed something. Turns out that she can deal with you and your baby if it means she won't be homeless as a result. I'm also a bit concerned about her being around your baby if she just lost one. It was extremely harsh wording, but after leaving you to fend for yourself in probably the most traumatic part of your life, she tries to guilt trip you and manipulate you. She's extremely selfish and was unbelievably lucky to have ever had your sympathy. You did all you could, and as a person, she didn't deserve to go through what she did, but that's no excuse to let jealousy ruin your relationship with each other. Having trouble with a baby is devastating and her husband didn't help, but she shouldn't have thrown away a supportive person like you and expected you to be there without reciprocating. My 22 parents had a late-in-life daughter last year. I have 3 other siblings besides, 27, 24, and 14. I had been living rent-free with my parents up until last year in order to save money while I completed my undergraduate degree, which my parents paid for. They also told me they would let me live with them through grad school, even though they wouldn't pay for it. My parents are financially well off, and my mom has always been a stay-at-home mother. Last year when my mom found out she was pregnant, they told me they expected me to step up and help out with a baby and take on more housework. I already did a good chunk of the housework prior to this. My parents have done a lot for me, genuinely. They were pretty good parents and are good people. I just really did not want to get roped into a role as caregiver or even be shoved into the big sister role again. So, I moved out maybe a month later, and this is verbatim what I said to them when I moved out. I appreciate everything you guys have done for me, but I feel that you're asking too much. I can't live with you and be subject to your rules indefinitely. At some point I have to move out and live my own life. So anyway, I moved out and got a place with my fiancé. My parents were very upset with me, and we haven't spoken much at all since I moved out. I've been sending a bi-monthly check to pay back the money they spent on my tuition, since I've always felt a little guilty letting them pay for it, even before I moved out. I'm honestly okay with this new situation, since my parents have always been a little overbearing. But my older sister recently told me that I'm selfish and ungrateful, and I should apologize to my parents and help them with childcare, etc. I am not going to do that, and I'm not entirely convinced I did anything wrong. Am I the idiot? Children don't owe their parents anything for raising them. Should you be appreciative for parents that raised you well? Absolutely, but that's literally their job they chose to take on when they chose to have kids. And they are once again choosing to have another child and go through the whole raising process again. You did not get to choose whether you wanted to be a caregiver to this child and are in no way an idiot because you don't want to be one. You don't have an obligation to take care of a child that isn't yours. Your parents made you, which means the stuff they did for you were just part of raising you, and parents don't get to hold that over their children's head to have them do what they want. I'm not sure if you handled it very well though. I get the impression from your post that you kind of ran away without talking to your parents about how you felt first. If that's the case, then I can understand your parents' feelings a little as well. You could apologize for how you left, but you don't need to feel bad for not wanting to raise a baby that isn't yours. They paid for your college, let you live there for free, we're going to allow you to stay there during you going to grad school, and then had the nerve to ask you to help out some with the new baby and do more housework. Like while she was pregnant. Or right after. Or always. In our family, asking that of someone is just being family. So because they ask you to help out for the years they've helped you, you finally decide to be a responsible adult and live on your own and pay for your own life. The only part in your story I get is you wanting to pay them back so they can't guilt you. I don't think you're an idiot, I just think you are a product of modern society that doesn't have the same family values and focuses more on the self and your own wants and desires. If you ever have a child, I think you'll have more of an understanding. Me, 26, and my stepsister, 28, are both engaged and in the planning stage for our respective weddings. My mom and stepdad recently invited us both for dinner, and we were discussing our plans. My stepsister immediately started talking about how she was being forced to have a small wedding, 30-60 people, because her fiancé didn't have the money to fund the type of wedding she wanted. She's always been vocal about wanting a lavish wedding. Some of the things she was saying were pretty snarky, but I chose to stay quiet because it isn't really my business. My mom pointed out how she and stepdad had a small wedding and that it wasn't about how many people were there, but that everyone you invited made the day more special. My stepsister made a sarcastic comment about how that was their second wedding and she wasn't planning to have a do-over, so it had to be perfect. My mom, who was obviously hurt by her comment, changed the topic by asking me to show her the Pinterest board I'd made for the wedding. There aren't that many pictures on it yet, but it includes a few photos of what I hope to be our wedding venue. My stepsister immediately asked why we needed such a big venue, how it was going to be so expensive, and how we probably didn't have enough family or friends to even fill it up. It's not even that big of a venue, we're planning to have 150 guests. I tried to be vague and said I just like the picture, but my stepsister kept probing me about how much it would cost to rent it. I eventually told her, which then led to her asking how much our budget was. I could see this was going to turn into a fight or her sulking, so I refused to answer and told her I wasn't sure yet. It turns out she asked my sister, who was helping me work out my budget, a few days later, if she knew how much my budget was going to be. My sister told her she was very apologetic when she realized it led to drama. My stepsister has now been complaining to her parents that it wasn't fair that I had so much money when she and her fiancé didn't even have half of it and that I had to downsize my wedding, otherwise I'd embarrass them. She's also demanding that either I downsize or we share the wedding with her and her fiancé getting married in the morning and us in the evening. I can't do this because my fiancé and his family are going to fund most of the wedding, and whilst we have a budget of X, I'm hoping we don't spend even close to it. I explained to her we weren't going to even spend our full budget and she thinks I'm now obliged to give whatever we don't use to her. She and her fiancé have been sending me texts daily demanding I give them the money. Even my stepdad has demanded I give her the money as it's not fair and has been really cold towards me whenever I visit since. Am I the idiot for refusing? Not the idiot. Start now to put a password on all of your vendors. Watch for stealth wedding plans to show up at your wedding. I would keep all plans private because stepsis is not to be trusted. She really has a lot of nerve. I have 2 daughters and we partially paid for their weddings. My husband paid for my stepdaughter's entire wedding. It wasn't held at the same type of venue and she was jealous of my 2 girls. Note that my daughters were married 5 and 15 years after stepdaughter was married. There was no way I was going to downsize their weddings because stepsister didn't get as fancy of a wedding. She sure is a piece of work. As others said, password protect everything and don't tell her any of your plans anymore and make sure your sister, fiancé and anyone else in bridal party does not engage. Also block her on any social media you have. Maybe ask your sister to keep in touch via Facebook etc. So she can be your spy to see if stepsister is trying to pull crap or badmouth you. Tell your stepdad to pound sand. If he wants Precious to have a big wedding he can pay for it. No is a complete sentence. You should share your venue. No. You need to give me money. No. You need to downsize your wedding. No. I have 3 siblings and they all had lavish weddings. My wife and I got married in the living room of our tiny 2-bedroom apartment. We were poor college students and tired of waiting until we could afford it. Still one of the best days of my life. Wouldn't change it for anything. Because it's not about all the fanfare. It's about you and your partner and unifying to create a family. Your sister really needs to take a step back and look at her motives for wanting to get married. It doesn't matter if she can't afford a big wedding and you can. And you don't owe her a red cent. It's so bizarre and entitled that she is now demanding whatever leftover funds you have. I'd seriously consider blocking her, at least for the time being. It blows my mind to know that people like this even exist. My oldest daughter got married a few months ago. For years she'd been planning a huge royal ball-style wedding that I had always planned on paying for. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, she and her girlfriend, now wife, cancelled everything and went with a small courthouse wedding. So since I didn't have a wedding to pay for, I decided to buy the girls a house as a Christmas present. Christmas morning I gave them the keys and took them over to the new house to show it to them. They loved it. 2 hours later my phone starts ringing off the hook from my daughter-in-law's parents, yelling because I bought their daughter a house. They said it wasn't fair because they couldn't afford to buy them such an expensive gift. I told them no one expected them to, and the only reason I did it was that I didn't have to pay for the wedding. Then they demanded that I take the house back from the girls, give the house to them, and tell the girls they have to stay in the apartment they're currently renting. At that point, I just hung up on them and ignored their calls. Now I've got some friends and family members telling me the gift was too much and that I should take it back to keep the peace. I think they're all insane. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. These people sound knucking futs. It's sad that they can't just be happy for their daughter in receiving such an unexpected head start in life. A house will be absolutely life-changing for them financially. The only way you could be the idiot here was if your daughter and her wife were upset you didn't consult them before making such a huge financial decision for them, property tax, location, etc., but they don't seem to be. I could understand the in-laws feeling self-conscious, but they're clearly not that torn up about it if they're asking for the house for themselves. Not the idiot, but that was a really risky thing you did. In general you shouldn't buy life-altering gifts for people without their knowledge and input. What if the house wasn't what they wanted or needed, and they'd have felt ungrateful telling you so? That's an awkward position to put them in. Like, this was a generous gift, but you should have run it by them in advance. As for the parents, they can go to hell. It's obviously not about them feeling bad they couldn't give as good a gift, or they wouldn't be demanding you give it to them instead. I mean what? Definitely not the idiot. That was a very generous, kind, and economically smart thing to do for them. They are starting their life together so far ahead of most people because of your love and generosity. I think this option is far better than actually getting to have that wedding, though I know they must be a little sad to miss out on a lavish party like they planned. The in-laws have no say in any of this, and they are really showing their true colors here. Hopefully someday they will come to their senses. Part of it is obviously jealousy and feeling inferior because they could never match such a gift, but no one is asking them to do that. A story as old as time. My 27 father, 50, cheated on my mother for 5 years with a younger woman, currently 32, and he left my mother when Mr. got pregnant. It tore our family apart. I resent my father because my mother actually loved him and she is still dealing with this. Even 1 year after he left her. I stayed on okay terms with him because I was the one to pick up and drop off my younger brother at his place. Last week when I picked up my brother, my father had big news. He proposed to his girlfriend and wanted me as his best woman. It made me kinda mad, not gonna lie. But I kept calm and told him no. He said that what happened between him and mom was none of our business and that I should respect his new relationship. I said I respect it, but that doesn't mean I condone it. Obviously I would never hound him randomly about it, but I don't approve of it and I don't like her. She knew the whole time my mom and we existed. Well, my dad was having none of it and told me to get off my high horse because I had cheated too and I had no right. And I guess. When I was 17 I was with this boy for 3 months. I went to a party, got crap-faced and made out with a classmate for a total of 10 minutes. I felt so bad that I called my boyfriend crying and we talked it out. We broke up. I told my dad and in 10 years I never did something like that again. I have been with my partner for 5 years. I told him he could not equate it at all. He called me a hypocrite. And that he was glad to know who I am. Driving home I felt like I was a bit harsh. He is still my father and he is not a bad father. I just don't want to be in his wedding. I would still go. But am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The difference between what your father did and what you did is similar to the difference between a 4-year-old kid grabbing a candy bar in the store and getting caught versus a grown adult holding the place up at gunpoint. Not only is he an idiot for deliberately cheating and hiding this from your mother for years, but he's also a manipulative idiot for attempting to make you think that what you did was in any way comparable to what he did. Your dad's lame as hell for bringing up something you did as a teen, especially since you're in a very committed relationship now. I don't think you should have to be a part of his wedding because of the reasons you provided and the pure fact that you're an adult, and at this point your decision should be made based off your own well-being, mentally and physically first. I think the confirmation that you were not irrational or an idiot is that regardless of the nasty woman knowing of your family's existence you'd still support your dad at the wedding with your presence, period, which he should accept as enough and grow up. He committed himself to your mother for the rest of his life. Your cheating incident happened in a non-serious relationship and you even told the truth about it in the end. Your father is trying to justify his own actions by making your cheating seem to be on par with his when it is not. It makes total sense that you don't want to be in a wedding that represents the fallout of your childhood family. Your father sounds like a manipulative idiot, sorry to say.